Okay, 99% battery. Okay, turn the camera on.
Okay. See right here.
Those are styles and pressure. So,
Just need this one. So before we begin, I'm going to let you both know that we are recording.
I left that one blank.
Okay. We are recording the disciplinary hearing, so we will identify everyone in the room. I am Patrick South, the Chief of Police for the City of Elgin.
Chris Noble, Commander, Elgin Police Department.
And Sanders, HR Director, City of Elgin.
Kyle Wooten, police officer at the City of Elgin. Tiger Hand attorney for Officer Wooten.
Thank you. Today we're here in reference to IA case number 2020-02. The allegations are for Kyle Wooten are 2, criticism of official acts and truthfulness required at all times. Did you get a notice this was sustained allegation?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. Before I start asking questions, I'm going to do everything I can today, Kyle, that when we finish, you're still going to be employed.
Yes, sir.
That's going to be up to you.
Yes, sir.
I've reviewed a number of all the interviews, everything else. There's a lot of things we can work on and fix. One thing I can't fix is truthfulness.
Yes, sir.
And there's 2 ways to be untruthful. I'm going to lay them out for you. Just flat out by telling something that's false or by omission.
Yes, sir.
If I feel at the end of this hearing that you're doing either of those, I don't have a choice.
Yes, sir.
So my suggestion to you is don't take a relatively minor issue and end your career.
Yes, sir.
So this all stemmed from being contacted by David Gerloff about him wanting to form a meeting. We've got the survey that has several parts, so we're going to start there. And I want you to tell me when you were contacted and we're going to move forward. And the reason I'm doing this over again, when I looked at your interview, you used the term "I don't recall" or "I don't remember" more times than I could count.
Yes, sir.
In a 30 somewhat minute.
Yes, sir.
That's you're going to give me answers for those things.
Yes, sir.
So let's start at the beginning. When were you contacted by David?
Honestly, now I don't remember. It was, I believe, a Sunday before we had the breakfast. I believe it was.
Okay.
I don't recall the actual date now. It was a.
Let me help you.
Yes,
On 5/20, you were interviewed by Commander Noble.
Yes, sir.
I think somewhere around the 10th is when you said you got a text message.
That sounds correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's start there.
So the 10th, I received a text message from Gerloff saying, I want to try to put this survey together it's a morale survey for the department.
Okay.
I did not say anything to him at the time, And then the day after, I received a longer email that said, this is what the survey is, like, this is how it works.
Okay.
We have to have this many people participate. It has to be,
Okay, I want you to go down the specifics about that text. Did you provide that text to me or not?
I did not know, sir.
So I want you to tell me everything within that text.
I have it in my phone right now.
Go ahead, pull it up. Is it in here? Let me just pull it out there too.
So it says, I talked to TMPA a few minutes ago. This will be a lengthy process, but this will get it started. The road to Dick Brock needs to meet face-to-face with all officers and has to be done in a neutral site that is decided by the group. I mean, it's a very long text message. Okay. He will speak with everyone regarding the process and complete the list of issues to go to management survey. I will help coordinate to whatever needs to be done to get everyone together so none of you can be pinpointed. With you being present involved, I will be the focus of the chief's attention. Once the survey is compiled, he rents a hotel and sets a date at times for officers to come and complete the survey. The survey is blind, and that Mr. Barth will not review your survey, ask you anything about your answers, and it will be placed into a locked ballot box. Minimal ID information is obtained on the survey. The information is not released individually, only as an average age of officer, length of time of deployment, etc. For this work, there needs to be a minimum of 75% sworn personnel. The opportunity to take the survey will be given to officers from the newest hire all the way to the chief himself. Once the survey is complete, the results recommendations are presented to the chief. Again, he will not be given any identifying officer information, no matter how hard he pushes. The only way he will know what you said or how you answered on your survey is that if you say something. If you are pressured or retaliated against for participating, you will need to contact HR and TMPA so the appropriate steps can be taken. The chief will be given a timeline to implement, perform the recommended changes. After that time, if no changes are made, the information will be escalated to the city manager. The same information options will be given to the city manager with a timeline, and if no action is taken, then the information will be escalated to the city council and released to the media. Again, this is a lengthy process. The sooner it gets started, the sooner it will be in the hands of the city manager and the city council, if it needs to go that far. I know you're all concerned about retaliation. However, if everyone is united, you can get through this, and this is the only way. If you sit back and do not participate, you have no ground to stand on and complain about what's going on.
So you got that text message the day after, before you all went and had breakfast, right?
I believe we went to breakfast on Tuesday, and so we got that on Monday, yes, sir.
So what happened then?
I spoke to Gerloff and asked him if he wanted to have breakfast because I had a question about the survey.
So he didn't call you for declining the breakfast, you called him?
Yes, sir. I had a question about the survey, so I asked to speak to him. We didn't necessarily set up the breakfast then. I just said, hey, I have a question. Can we set it up, or can we talk? And he said, yes, I get off. I'll be in Elgin tomorrow morning. Do you want to have breakfast? I said, yes, sir.
And what was the question that you had?
My question was about retaliation, sir. What would be, how can we verify that we would be not, like it would be hidden of what each individual officer said.
No.
And so, the morning of the breakfast, I asked,
You got, who else has an email?
that I'm not sure of. It was just sent individually to officers. I'm aware that Marco and Jaboris both had it. That's all, because I hadn't talked to anybody about it.
What about one?
I believe he did, but I'm not sure, sir. He never said that he had it or not. I hadn't talked to him about it.
What would lead you to believe that he did that?
I don't have any information on whether he did or didn't have it. I know that we spoke about it after I had breakfast with David Gerloff.
Okay, so he seemed to already be aware of it.
I'm not sure, sir, because I wasn't the first one to speak with him about it, I believe.
Just a second ago, you said you believed he had knowledge of it. So tell me why you believe he had knowledge of it.
Because we talked about it, sir. After the breakfast,
So before the breakfast, you don't know whether he had knowledge?
I don't, sir.
Keep going.
We had the breakfast. I asked my question about retaliation, and he said that it was a blind survey, so that nothing would be done. I understand that there was talk supposedly about a tasing, and if
We'll get to that. I just want you to tell me actually what occurred.
we had breakfast.
Okay, so you all met together?
Yes, sir. So I contacted Jaboris and Marco because Jaboris was on shift with me, and Marco was out on his sick leave or whatever for his hand. I said, hey, do y'all want to come to breakfast? I told him it was with some girl off, but I didn't really go into details about what it was about. But they said, yeah, and so they met us over there.
But you would have reasonably assumed they knew because they had the text, right?
I can't say that they didn't.
Well, you just said they sent it back and forth to each other before.
No, we had to send it back and forth. So I talked to Gerloff directly about it, and then we hadn't, so Jaboris had texted me, he was like, hey, did you see that? And I was like, yeah, I have questions. And so I told him that, and we didn't go into details about it because I didn't want to go into details about
But
it.
it was pretty clear that everybody had gotten that information before the meeting.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's reasonable to assume that. Yes, sir. So we went to this breakfast.
Now, before you went to the breakfast, though, did you have a conversation with the Sergeant Wall about what you were going to discuss or talk about?
No, sir. I told Sergeant Wall that we were going to breakfast with Gerloff, and he said okay. Because
No, you didn't ask any questions.
no, sir.
How long has this been since David had been fired?
I don't remember when David was fired.
Okay, so when was the last time you saw David Gerloff?
November, I believe, is when he got put on admin leave.
So from November till the day that you met to have breakfast, have you had any meetings with David Gerloff?
No, sir. I haven't.
So, out of the blue, he wants to do the survey for, and you can say relatively disgruntled employee, wanted to have breakfast, and your sergeant didn't ask you any questions,
No, sir. He didn't.
and you didn't provide him any additional information.
No, sir. I didn't.
So y'all went over, sit down,
Yeah, so we met in the parking lot, went inside, sat down. I was sitting beside Gerloff, and Marco was straight across from me, and Jaboris said, here, we're for representative. We briefly discussed the survey.
okay, well, I don't want to hear generalities, I want to hear, give me the most specific conversation that you remember.
I remember my question. I asked him, how do I know that I'm not going to be retaliated against if I were to participate in this survey?
Well, I'm sure didn't David start off, he just didn't start off with that conversation, you know, sitting in that and talk, I mean.
Well, as I said,
Yeah.
yes, sir. As I said in my last interview, is that it was so. I had my one question, and everything else was so minute to me. It didn't deem reasonable for me to have to remember a whole conversation. And so,
Your other people sitting at that table remembered a lot more of other conversations.
and I understand that, sir. Yes, sir, and I understand that. And I can't speak for them, but to me, it was not an important conversation. I had my question, and I asked my question.
Okay, now this is where we're gonna start getting into it.
Yes, sir.
So, tell me about the conversation and what y'all talked about.
I asked my question about retaliation,
Who started the conversation?
about
Who
my
started?
question.
No, when y'all sit down, who started the conversation?
I don't know, sir. I mean, we walked in talking, so as we sat down, I don't know who started the conversation, sir.
All right, so then I'm sure David said something. How did David start off his conversation?
I don't know, sir. I don't remember if he started off with, here's the survey, this is what we're doing, or I don't remember how any of the conversation was started, sir.
I'm gonna go ahead and take a break for a second. We'll go ahead and pause the camera. I'm gonna give you the opportunity to take Kyle outside and have a discussion with him about what he can and can't remember about that conversation.
He's gonna tell you, he's gonna be honest, he's telling me what he remembers. I don't even have that conversation with you. He's telling me what he remembers. He is telling me, he'll tell you everything he can remember and tell you. I don't need to coach him about that. He's gonna tell you the truth and tell you what he remembers.
All right, I'm willing to.
I don't need to coach him. He's gonna tell you what he remembers. I don't need to go through that. He knows, he's telling you exactly everything he knows, Chief. He's here and he's committed to me and he's committed. I'm gonna tell you everything I know. If he doesn't remember, he doesn't remember. But he's gonna tell you the truth.
All right, we'll go back again. You're sitting at the table. Then we gotta turn the camera. Did we ever turn it off?
No.
Okay. You're sitting at the table. Tell me about the conversation you had at the table. I can remember conversations I had 6 months ago with people. I have to do it all the time. For you to sit there and say you don't remember anything about that conversation when everyone else at that table did.
So, as I told you, I remember what my question was. I asked my question. I said, how do I know I'm not going to be retaliated against? Gerloff said, it will be a blind survey. And I said, what if there's somebody out in the parking lot watching to see who goes in? Don't know who did the survey. I remember that because that was my question. That was what was imperative to me because that's what worried me about participating in any type of survey like this. How a conversation began, I don't know, sir. I mean, that's.
We'll make it easier for you. So we're going to the table. So what else besides your question did you talk about?
I mean, we talked about how Gerloff was doing since we hadn't seen him. I knew that. I mean, I remember talking about that. There's talk about a taser. I don't remember any discussion about a taser. I was told that it was about.
I'm not asking you about what
But
that is. I want you to tell me what you remember about the conversation. So if you don't remember it, there's no point in bringing it up.
okay, I don't remember any of the.
The only thing you did was sit there and ask about your retaliation question, and then you zoned out and didn't hear any part of the rest of the 45-minute conversation.
So I know that we sat there and we BS'd around the table like we do always.
So what do you say?
I don't remember. I really don't remember, sir.
General topics in the conversation.
I can't say because I don't remember, sir. I really don't recall what the conversations were about. I had my one question to ask about the survey, and after that, it was just 4 people sitting there talking.
Okay.
And so that's not something that is going to be imprinted in my mind because it was such a minute thing to me, sir.
So what did David Gerloff have to say?
He said that the survey would be completely anonymous. He said that we will go in individually and have our chance to do the survey, and that nobody will know who did what, who said what about the survey.
Okay, well, I know you talked about some of the stuff besides the survey. You had a phone conversation. So what topics did David talk about?
I don't know, sir. I don't recall any of the conversations that we had.
Do you see my dilemma here, Kyle? Everybody else at the table remembers the exact conversation.
Yes, sir. Okay. I understand.
Do I need to go to their conversations and start asking you specifically? I mean, if you have an inability to even remember that, There's nothing that I can do with that. I mean,
Because it was such a minute thing to me, than a former coworker.
so you're a police officer, right?
Yes, sir.
We have to do reports, don't we?
Yes, sir.
We have to have a memory, don't
I do, yes, sir. And when I'm on a case, I remember that stuff because it's important to me. What's not a breakfast at a restaurant with 2 employees and one my ex-sergeant is not an important conversation to me, sir. I remember me asking my question because that was important to me. But other than that, it was not important. If I'm at a scene, I'm gonna remember what's said because I have to remember that. Did I think that I was gonna be called in and my job on the line about going to breakfast with David Gerloff? No, sir, I didn't. So why did I feel the need to have to imprint that into my mind?
Okay. So you don't recall anything that David talked about his new job?
I know that he talked about his new job. I remember that he worked. That was a neat thing to me. So yeah, I do remember that.
Okay. So let's work on trying to re-help your memory a little bit here. What else did David talk about? Did he talk about his appeal?
I don't recall. He may have mentioned it, but I don't recall if he did or not.
That's what you said in the last interview. Okay, do you remember anything Boris said?
I don't. No, sir.
Nothing at all. Any jokes, something was funny, anything else?
I don't. No, sir.
Okay, do you recall anything that Marco said?
No, sir. I don't. I can tell you that I can go back to this taser thing that apparently this was all stemming from.
That's not what I'm concerned about right now.
Yes, sir.
See, the actual meeting part of it is completely irrelevant to me.
Yes.
I mean, I don't really care about that part of it, but that does establish the fact that you're willing to tell me the truth about things. The conversation of interest for me is what the actual complaint was. Now, if you can't remember anything that was said, when you were the one who was described as being the most vocal individual in the room, and loudest, and using derogatory, not well, because I'm seeing derogatory conversation about pardon me. Y'all were talking about some dude who did get tased that you all didn't agree with. That in fact, somebody else told you all you shouldn't have tased him. None of those things you remember.
I don't. No, sir. I know that I am a very loud, vocal person.
So if
So-
the other 3 people at the table, or at least 2 of the people at the table said you said that, are they lying?
I can't say that they are or not. I can't speak for them because I don't recall if this was said, sir. I don't recall anything about it. If it was about Marco's tasing, I hear about it constantly. So if that was the conversation, then it was, I hear this story probably once a week, sir.
Well, we're gonna go back. I need to find out about the conversation that occurred at the table and what it had to do with it. If I can get that from you, you're probably gonna walk out of here with a written record.
Understand it?
If I don't, then I'm gonna sustain the allegations and it's gonna be much worse.
Yes, sir. I understand that. I can't go into any more detail about this conversation because I don't remember any of the conversations, sir.
You have always been an exceptional officer in the police department. You write good reports, you don't have any issues with anything. You've got to be able to remember some aspects. So I'm trying to save your job.
I understand that, sir, and I
You're
want to keep my job here, but I'm not going to talk about something that I don't remember, sir. I'm not going to go into detail about something that is hearsay because that's not police work either.
Let's try it this way then. I'm gonna make one last effort. Chris, do you want to ask anything right now while I'm going through this to find specifics on it?
With regard to Marco's tasing that you were always hearing about, describe that while you were sitting at the table.
I don't remember it being talked about at the table, sir, but I'm under the impression that that's what it was, that's what the tasing story that the citizen was talking about. So if that's what it was, then I don't recall it, but I hear this story all the time. It's something that Marco talks about constantly.
What do you recall about the incident involving Dudley and Brett Fillion with Walnuts guy in the Specs parking lot?
The Walnuts guy.
Yeah, the guy that got hit by the train.
Oh, yes, sir. I don't recall a conversation about that. I know about the case from talking at the PD with everybody.
That you have no recollection of that conversation about officers. Just the conversation was is, what is it we want, from management with regard to the use of the taser? Some particularly. Anyway.
I found it exactly here, Chris. So, it was in reference to pursuit by Bastrop County deputies, how you pushed someone into the gravel during an encounter, and how y'all weren't happy about the fact that email sent by the lieutenant telling officers they could not tase a certain Elgin citizen.
I don't recall that conversation. I've never heard that.
So when it says David Gerloff and you were doing most of the talking when criticizing the department,
I don't recall any of that, sir. I don't recall criticizing the department at all. That's not to say that none of this was said. I mean, apparently somebody's saying that this was said.
it's more than one person.
I don't recall any conversation about this, though, sir.
It's one thing if you don't recall. Okay, that's problematic enough, and I'm sorry. I don't want you to be afraid to tell me that you were criticizing me or the department or anything else, because the consequences of that are insignificant compared to losing your job.
Understand?
So you don't remember any conversation that you had about criticizing the department being Mayor Noble?
I don't. I asked about retaliation, which if you want to take that as a criticism,
No.
then, but I asked about that because I was worried about
It's
that.
a relatively intelligent question.
And I'll be completely honest as to why I went to this breakfast in the first place. I feel that I'm a leader, sir, and I want to be informed before I tell anybody else, hey, or if I have questions about anything. So why would I jeopardize my career if I want to move up in this department? And
I'm having the same questions myself right now.
but that's the thing, sir. I feel that I'm in jeopardy anyways because you don't believe anything I'm saying. But I'm telling you what I remember because that was important to me, and the rest of it was not important, sir. So there's no reason for me to have to remember it. I want to continue working here. I want to be part of the Elgin Police Department and part of the community. I'm not gonna.
Well, here, let's go to this point. So we'll be honest. Let's be honest about it. So y'all keep calling this a breakfast in a meeting. This is an organized effort to do basically what you talked about in the email, or not?
It was me getting information about it. Yes.
It is an organized effort to do that.
Yes.
So it's really not necessarily what a breakfast or what you all want to call a breakfast. You all were having breakfast, but that was the intent of being there, correct?
Well, that was my reason for contacting Gerloff, yes. So it just turned out that we had a breakfast to discuss that and to catch up.
Let's see. So after the breakfast, we're gonna skip forward, I'm gonna come back to that here in a while. What happened after the breakfast?
We went out, I had we began to head over to talk behind Walmart, but I had a call come in, and then I was called to Lieutenant Noble, or Commander Noble's office. I was given I didn't sign my non-discuss at that time,
Do not discuss.
or my do not discuss. At that time, it was, I don't even.
Wait, we're kind of jumping around a little bit. So right after the breakfast, you all left
Yes, sir.
and then felt compelled to meet. Who was meeting after the breakfast?
I was going to meet with Sergeant Wall.
Okay. And what were you going to meet with Sergeant Wall about to do?
I was going to talk to him about this,
Okay.
about the survey.
Okay. So how did that occur? What were you all going about to do? So right after breakfast, y'all are going to go meet and talk about.
Oh no, sorry. I'm confusing the day, the allegations. I'm confusing the breakfast. Yeah,
There's
no.
no breakfast.
Yes, sir. So after breakfast, we went on our own way. That was, I'm sorry, that was confusing 2 days together, sir. Yeah, we went about our day.
Okay. So what, y'all just left and that was it?
Yes, sir. That's how insignificant it was.
So y'all left, went on about your way, and then what happened next?
I don't know. I know at some point that day I spoke to Sergeant Wall about it. I was like, hey, this is the survey, and he was like, yeah. And it was not a huge discussion. It may have been in passing. I mean, we had our normal day. And then the following day is when we were called to your office. We spoke. You told us what you were upset about. And then, so right after that, we were like, let's meet. So we went to behind Walmart.
Okay.
And while we were heading over there, I had a call.
Okay.
So then, when I was clearing that call, I was called to Commander Noble's office. Commander Noble, at that point, was just asking me and Boris, I think, at the same time. I think we were in there at the same time.
Let me hold up for just a second.
Yes, sir.
We'll hold off right where you're at Commander Noble's office. So, I called you to my office, told you what I was upset about and why.
Yes, sir.
And then I instructed Commander Noble to do something that I know.
Start an IA, yes,
Start
sir.
an internal affairs investigation.
Yes, sir.
So, in internal affairs investigations, you're usually given a what?
I do not discuss, but I had not signed one at that time.
If you hadn't, we're being technical, but you can pretty much assume that that's going to be asked of you.
No, sir. It was never told to me that I could not talk to them.
Kyle, I understand that. I'm not saying you're going to get gigged for it, but a reasonable person who's going to be under investigation can assume that they're not supposed to discuss anything.
No, sir. Not until I signed that paper.
Okay. I'm going to inform you now that anytime you're given anything like that or you're told that you're subject to an internal affairs investigation, it is in your best interest not to have any conversation with anyone.
I understand. And
Because that's just going to bring additional doubt to your credibility in your story if you do.
I understand.
Okay. So now you're in Lieutenant.
Yes, sir. I had cleared my phone before we went up to your office. I didn't know what this was in reference to, so I just deleted all my text messages. So went to Commander's office, spoke to him. He asked if I had any of the messages. I said, no, sir, I don't. Directly after that, we met at Marco's house. It was the three of us, or the four of us, just kind of informing Marco of what's going on. And I said, hey, can you send me that text message again? Because that's what this is about. And he sent it to me so that I had it. I wanted to be able to show you all it. And then later in the afternoon, I was called in, and that's when I signed a do not discuss in Lieutenant Noble's office.
Okay. Then what happened after that?
That was That was it, sir. I mean, I was,
So let's go back. You actually went and met ultimately with Sergeant Wall and the other officers where?
on the day of that we were told that this was
So
happening.
you went to a call?
Yes, sir.
This was after.
Leaving your office.
Leaving my office?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We were gonna meet, it was, we were gonna meet behind Walmart and just talk about this, because, I mean, this is, it was heavy allegations at that time. And so,
They're
that's,
significantly serious, yeah.
yes, sir. And so we didn't know what to do, so we went and talked, or we were gonna go meet behind Walmart. I had my call, then I was called into Commander's office. After that, we went and met at Marco's house.
Okay, who was there?
Me, Marco, Sergeant Wall, and Jaboris.
And what was the conversation?
So we laughed at Marco about him having his hand in his cast. We told him about the meeting that we had in your office. Like, hey, this is a big deal. We need to know that this is happening. I asked him to send me that message, and then we left. There was nothing. I mean, we were there 5 minutes or less.
So, y'all were saying, hey, this is pretty serious stuff, and that's all you talked about was send me a text message and...
Yeah, I mean, this is serious. This is what happened in Chief's office. This is what we're being accused of. And I was like, hey, I need that message because I want to be able to show them that I'm not trying to hide anything.
Did you have a conversation, or did anyone present have a conversation about the way you should answer questions when asked?
No, sir.
Internal affairs investigator.
No, sir.
Are you absolutely positive?
I'm positive. Yes, sir.
So if someone at that meeting said you all did discuss what you should respond and how you should respond, are they lying?
I can't say yes or no. I can't speak
Yes,
for
you
other
can.
people.
You were there. Either it was said or it wasn't. That's a very specific thing.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about the questions that you're going to be asked in an internal affairs investigation. And if somebody said, no, we're going to say this or this or this, that's something that is significant.
I agree.
You should be able to-
Yes, sir. If anything, it was, let's be honest about this.
So did it or did it not happen?
I don't know. I don't,
Yes or no?
I'm going to say no. No, sir. It didn't.
You said if anything was said, just to be honest.
Yeah, of course.
If more than one person at that meeting said that y'all discussed what your answer should be during the internal affairs investigation, both those people are wrong. Yes or no?
I can't say yes or no to that, sir.
Yes, you can.
No, sir. Because I can't speak for other people.
You're not speaking for them. You weren't there. Either they said it or they didn't. Yes or no?
I don't know, sir. I mean, I'm saying no, that conversation didn't happen. Not about what to say during my
Did your sort? Okay, then is there something else about what y'all were going to say or how you're going to describe it?
No,
Don't
sir.
make me drag it out of you.
No, sir. There's no dragging anything out. I'm telling you no.
Okay. Did your sergeant at any point in time tell you you guys were on your own?
If he did, he was joking, of course. We have a relationship that's professional, yes, but we also joke a lot.
Didn't seem like a joke to other people who were there. As a matter of fact, they took it very seriously.
Well, if that individual took it seriously, then something was completely wrong with them because that is the relationship the four of us have on that ship.
And what did Chris talk to you about? What did you have there?
We discussed what was talked about in your office, sir. We discussed how we were surprised at how you were reacting. I know that, I remember that because it was a pretty big deal to me. I was in the military, but I got out of the military. And to be treated like that was in my opinion, not right. And so that was talked about.
So, I had just gotten out of a meeting with you guys over a deal you had the day before, and that didn't spur you to take out there and remember what
No, sir. Not the specifics.
So after that meeting, did you have any other conversations with anybody, any text messages or any other communications related to this case?
No, sir. Not related to the case. Other than with my attorney.
All right, it's your turn.
I have no questions.
Were there any of these text messages related to Kyle? What do you call it specifically?
The text message, it's on the main server of the department, which I can't get to from here. But as far as those, no, there's nothing.
All right, I'm going to take a break for us to review and discuss. If y'all would go ahead and wait outside for me, we'll call you back in the morning. Nope, well, before we do that, Kyle, is there anything else that you want to talk about?
No, sir. Not this time.
All right.
Let me have a seat.
Yes, please. All righty, before I go ahead and determine what discipline is the case, Kyle, do you have anything that you want to say or add?
I don't, sir.
Tiger, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
So on the criticism of official acts, that's going to remain sustained. On truthfulness, requited at all times, I'm going to classify it as inconclusive. What's today's date?
17.
Because of your prior service to the department and the fact that I do believe that you're a young officer who can be trained and educated, I'm not going to terminate you,
Yes, I appreciate it.
but you are going to be placed on a performance improvement plan for 120 days
Yes, sir.
as part of educational-based discipline. If you complete that 120 days with the requirements that you're given, which will probably be some additional training,
120 or 180?
120.
Okay.
You want to do 180?
6 months keeps it, yeah.
Okay,
Please.
180 days. That gives us time to get that extra training. If you complete that performance improvement plan with no significant issues at that time, you'll receive a written reprimand for your actions involved in this case.
Yes, sir.
If you do not complete it according to the standards that we set out for you, then this additional discipline may be added up into including termination.
Yes, sir. So, can I ask a question? So, when will I find out what the plan will be?
It will probably be in the next 2 weeks,
Okay.
and that will be administered by Commander Love.
Yes, sir.
Any questions, Ira?
Yes, sir.
That concludes the case for now. All right.
Am I signing it?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
What are we doing next?
Marco.
Marco?
Yeah.
Want to visit or bring in?
No,